Hi, I'm Lucy.
Hi, I'm Berno.
And today we're going to be talking about motives.
And this is the last one of our series so far. And it's kind of still a conversation we're having between the two of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
So again, everything you've heard in this past few videos is conversations we're having over the washing up bowl with each other. So please join in on the conversation. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, we'd like to hear.
Yeah. So motives, yeah?
Motives. Yeah, so...
How do your motives fit in with self-love and selfless love?
I think motives are a really important part of self-love and selfless love. I guess especially the selfless love part.
Right.
Because...
Yeah.
And I think it's important because of having thought about the other areas, self-awareness, boundaries, communication, is thinking about why we're doing things, and it's about being intentional.
Okay.
And I think when we can reflect on our motives and think, why am I doing this? Yeah, we can be a lot more intentional in our actions, and they become conscious choices.
Yeah.
That's kind of...
So where you felt when you were growing up, and you kind of, up until recently, really, a lot of the time you felt you had to do stuff for others because maybe out of obligation. You feel obliged to do it, or it's a good thing. I have to do it because it's good.
Sometimes I think sometimes we do choose to do things, but I think there's definitely times in the past growing up and also as an adult where I've just felt like, well, I just have to do this, or it's something I should do, so I should just do it.
Yeah, and I think that's something we've been told. Sometimes, you're told, like, if you don't like something, well, you still have to do it because it's good. And then I think, like, it makes me think of when we're brushing our children's teeth. We know that if we don't brush their teeth, it's going to cause a lot of damage and it's going to be uncomfortable and things. They don't know that, so they just feel like, I don't want to do it. No, and so, I can see how in that case we can teach them to be, or that's kind of teaching them obligation. I know you don't like it, but you have to do it because it's good for you.
Yeah, and I guess it's really understanding the why, and is understanding the why you're doing something. Sometimes, and sometimes we might reflect on something that we feel like we have to do out of obligation or whatever, and it's a responsibility. And if we don't do that thing, what are the consequences of it? But I guess in the context of thinking about loving others, if we are choosing to do something for someone else because we feel like we have to or we should do,
I don't think those are potentially good motives. No. Or I see obligation there can be a negative thing, because we want to do things for people because we want to do it. And when you feel obliged to doing stuff, you don't feel like you necessarily have a choice, do you? Do you think that?
No, you feel like, well, there is no choice. I just have to do this.
Yeah.
And I think often people feel like they have to do certain things, and they don't always have to do them. Or just becoming aware of the fact that they feel that way is an opportunity to reassess.
Okay, reassess your motives.
Yeah.
Or reassess
Or to reassess what you're doing.
Right. So do you have an example of have you been through a situation like that?
So I remember when I was at university, and I had this question, about, like, if I want to do something, or I'm doing something, and then I realise, my motives aren't that great. Like, I remember I went to somebody for some guidance on this sort of spiritual guidance. He was a Christian, and I said to him, like, say I'm doing something, and then I realise actually I'm doing it because I want to look good in front of other people, and it's kind of, I'm doing it because I want them to perceive me in a certain way.
Right.
And then I realised, like, that isn't very honourable, really, is it? Because it's all about glorifying me.
Yeah.
Do I just stop doing it? Do I just not do it? And I remember he said, like, it's an opportunity to bring it before God. It's not necessarily about not doing it, because maybe it's a really good thing, but maybe it's about bringing it before God, and it's an opportunity to change your motives.
Okay.
And to say, like, God, can you help me with this? I don't want to do it to glorify myself. I want to do it because I want to glorify you.
Yeah.
Please help me in this.
Yeah.
And so that was quite cool because I saw it instead as an opportunity to bring it before God. But I think I think you mentioned earlier off camera that something has to change. When we realize that our motives aren't honorable, something has to change. Either we can change our motives and do it anyway, but choose to do it.
Yeah, rather than feeling obliged, you have... Okay, well, you're talking about... Actually, your motives were... It wasn't that you felt obliged to do something, but your motives were just to look good.
Yeah.
So in that sense, when you recognize that your motives aren't honorable, great word, and I think it also applies to if you feel obliged to do something as well. It's really good to then check, well, first of all, why do you feel obliged, or what is good about it?
Yeah.
And then think, okay, in the case of feeling obliged, change your motivation. How do you, going through that process? I think if you feel something is good, it's not just about an answer of saying it's good, that's why I should do it. You should explore that even more. Why is it good? What is good about this?
Yeah.
And I think the deeper you dig in it, it starts affecting your motivation. That's where you realize, actually, I do want to do this. I might not feel like this initially, but now that I've thought it through, I do want to do this, even though it can be hard, or you might come to the conclusion.
But then sometimes I think there is a time when, or there might be situations where we examine our motives and the reasons that we're doing something, and maybe we do feel that the right thing is to step back and step away from it. And so I guess it's having wisdom and bringing it before God and praying about it, and having that conversation with God about it.
Yeah. And what I find really interesting actually is what God is most interested about in us. There are numerous verses in the Bible where God says to the Israelites, for instance, through one of the prophets, he says how, I don't like your festivals and all these things that you're doing. Well, some of them were pagan, but also he said your motivation for doing them is not right. And so I reject that because of your motivation.
Yeah.
And in terms of you looking good, there's that bit in Samuel where Samuel goes to anoint David, and Samuel sees the eldest of Jesse's son. David's the youngest, and Samuel thinks, oh, this eldest son looks good. And God says to Samuel, no, like you can see, you're looking at the outward appearance, but like, I'm interested in people's hearts, and this guy's heart is not. No, I've got someone else in mind.
And again, you've mentioned it before, another verse that says God loves a cheerful giver. And so, I think it's so important where our hearts are at.
Because giving is a good thing.
Yeah.
And we've got an audience now. The children are sat right next to the camera. Listen. And so it's then seeing, okay, am I giving? Yeah, why am I giving? It's a good thing. But, checking that motivation.
Just speaking out of my own experience, I know that there's things that I've stopped doing because I've realised that I'm just doing it purely to please other people, and actually I'm doing it not for healthy reasons.
Yeah.
And so so I think it's a great opportunity when we examine our motives, and
it's through being self-aware. The more you go through this process of being aware of yourself, and you think you start questioning your motives. That's a good thing. Question. It can be tiring though. The other thing is it can be tiring. I think, and that's what you found as well. Yeah. You can through this process of becoming more self-aware. That is quite tiring because you're analyzing everything, and you can question things. But I think that's kind of the start of it, really, isn't it? Because the more you do it, you're rewiring your brain in a way to think and process in a certain way. It becomes easier and easier and less tiring.
Yeah, and just to I kind of feel like we're kind of coming to the end of this last video in the series, and I think one of the things that I found really helpful is writing things down and sort of journaling. I think again, often when we think of journaling, I don't know, it's a generalization. I know before I didn't really want to journal because I didn't really like seeing sometimes what was coming out of me. So I think it's being able to journal and not to be judgmental towards yourself. And being able to write things down, and it's a way of being able to get get your feelings and your emotions out, being able to process different decisions, and a way of working things out without necessarily directing something negative or
so
at someone else.
A good place to start not being judgmental when you're journaling is yourself.
Yeah.
And so that leads kind of to accepting your limitations.
So that's just like a practical
tip.
way
Andy.
of kind of helping you to work these things out and to think about it and think it through. It can be really tiring, and I think as well it's okay to kind of like take a break from it as well. Like when your brain is just really tired and you need to have a break, like that's okay. But it is a process and a journey.
Or if you want to take the academic approach, you can write yourself a 3,000 word essay on your upbringing and how the experiences, the significant experiences in your life have led you to where you are now.
But I think it's worth doing. It's worth doing it. It's work.
Yeah,
it's work.
So insightful.
It is work, but it's
you're investing in yourself. That's the thing, isn't it? You're investing in yourself.
You're investing in yourself. But what's really interesting about that, and maybe this is quite a good conclusion for everything else, is you're investing in yourself to be able to give to others.
Yeah.
And I remember recently a lady that I follow on Instagram. Someone sent her a message. I've told you this story before. Someone sent her a message saying, you never seem to be working. You always seem to be drinking tea and eating cake. When do you do any work? And she said, there's so much work that she has to do. There's so much going on. Her kind of years get busier and busier. And actually, she can't give out of an empty cup. And I think that's maybe quite a helpful way to conclude this, is that you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah.
And so we need to be self-aware and ask God to fill us up to be able to give out.
Yes. Brilliant. Right, the children are hungry.
Yep. So it's time to end this.
This is the end. Please share your thoughts and your ideas, and if you want us to open up about other things that we discuss around the washing up bowl, then this might become the washing up bowl series.
Thanks for listening to us ramble on, and looking forward to hearing what you think.